Even the sparrow finds a place by your altar. Even the wanderer who roams. Even the fatherless is embraced by the Father. We're coming home, coming home. We're coming home, coming home. Even the sparrow finds a place by your altar. Even the wanderer who roams. Even the fatherless is embraced by the Father. We're coming home. We're coming home. We're coming home. Coming home. The table is set. I will sit down, surrounded by friends and feast. The table is set. We will sit down, surrounded by friends and feast. Even the sparrow finds a place by your altar. Even the wanderer who roams. Even the fatherless is embraced by the Father. We're coming home. We're coming home. We're coming home. Coming home. We're coming home. We're coming home. We're coming home. We're coming home. Coming home. The table is set. We will sit down, surrounded by friends.
There, I lifted that from the worship service from Synod 2025, and I was sitting in that auditorium in Redeemer University, and I heard that song, and I thought, oh, this song is very TLC, and so that's why I've been playing it. I hope the writer of the song, which was the guy playing the instrument, I hope he doesn't mind that I'm using it, because I thought it was a beautiful song. He made that song during COVID, but considering our themes of domicide and all the different layers to this thing, I thought, wow, that song sort of really nails things. Well, today we are going to have a bunch of people from Midwestuary, a number of people who participated in it and helped plan it. I hope maybe next week I'll reach into the randos grab bag and get a bunch of people perhaps a little bit less well known, but this group is a bunch of veterans, and so I'm going to pull them on stage. Mo is everyone here is a regular in the TLC, and Mo is a pastor in Chicago area, part of the Chicago group, so I really wanted at least some representative from the Chicago meetup group. So Mo, any words of introduction or greeting?
Hello, I'm very tired, but got some 2-month-old twins at home, but happy everything went well last week, and happy to talk about it some more with people.
Identical or fraternal?
Identical. Man, the Lord blesses.
The Lord bless. The Lord gave you a double blessing. Well, congratulations. And what an event to do while you've got 2-month-old identical twins.
Yeah, it was a crazy week.
Yeah, people might not know that there are additional medical. I had friends who had identical twins in the DR, and there are additional medical questions and complications with identical as opposed to fraternal. So, really happy that everything came out okay. And yeah,
Yeah,
your
no,
work,
none of those complications came through, so we're very blessed.
Wonderful. All right, I'm going to bring in Jess P. Jess is not a stranger. It's fun. The couple of comments in my videos saying I didn't know anything about Jess's channel and Job, and so I think you've got a few more people who have
got some more people engaged.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Like I had several people come up to me during the conference and say that they've watched the series, and they didn't leave comments, but they came up to me personally and like thanked me, and it's always kind of incredible when that happens.
Yeah. Jeff, some of you might know that Jeff P, who does the Shoulder Surf channel where he's reading through C.S. Lewis and talking to the robot lady, talking to the LLM. Jeff also, if you watch my original Rando's conversation with, he's a biblical transcriber. So part of his practice of devotions is to copy the Bible by hand. It's a way to sort of slow down and take it in. And he told me this week, he says, I'm currently on the book of Job. So yeah.
I know. And he told me he had like personal disasters like happening in his life as he started it. And he's like, I can't wait to get done.
Yeah. Oh, what order am I going to take these? I think I'm going to take Kale next because Kale, very well known. Number of people said, "Oh, I wish Kale had a keynote." Of course,
my head doesn't need any more swelling. So,
Kale, I think you did a tremendous job at Midwestary as MC.
It was very good,
and we'll probably.
I had a blast. Honestly, it was a peak weekend. It was really amazing. So, thank you.
Incredible. We're gonna do today in estuary style. The topic, I guess, will probably be mostly Midwestuary, but via estuary style doesn't have to be. Someone might, bring in a ringer of a topic and guide us all in a different direction. And here is our own Luke.
Yeah.
Thompson.
What's up,
Luke? Welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm representing the tank top for Jason, my boy Jason Schweizer Almond Tree, and for Lucas Van Oss.
People don't need to see that from me, so I'm glad you got it covered, or uncovered, as I should say.
Now, is that underwear, Kale? I mean, it's not white.
very much underwear. But I'm letting Luke do Luke, man. Letting Luke do Luke.
I'm on my porch, so it's hot. I can put on this other shirt.
No, not on me. Like I said, it's like I really need to shed this like weird. Everybody was pointing out to me what they were wearing all weekend long, and this thing has grown well beyond the original joke. So
Kale is the fashion critic of the TLC.
Oh, God,
really
God.
Is. So, and not to be outdone, last but certainly not least, I'm going to bring in the Griswold.
Let's go.
Who apparently my relationship with him has gotten me into has gotten me denounced as a cult leader. So there we have it. There we have it, Grizz.
I see the assassins have failed.
Completely. Chad sent me a little note. That Chad, I had said to Chad, hey, maybe you can come in. He didn't know if his work would allow that. So now we can't find it. So he had a little note that he asked for me to read. And so I will read it. Chad said, in all likelihood, I am currently installing subfloor and waiting for the city building inspector. I wish could actually participate in the live stream. Instead, I've asked Paul to convey this to you. Wow, what an event. I've had so many kind words and experiences shared with me about the event that it's one of the most meaningful projects I've ever got to participate in. We must first thank God and his many humble servants that have made this all possible. Jess, Neil, Sam, Dan, and Mo. Our wives and Sam's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Tiedemann. To all those that contributed to the barbecue, Nate, Sarah, Bill, Lauren, and John, you've all responded to request for help unflinchingly and are an example to me of the kind of man I could and hope to grow into. All the vendors, the generosity of Elmhurst CRC, Faith CRC, and their teams. To all of our keynote special guests, thank you for helping to bring into reality a vision of fellowship, understanding, and stimulating discussion. I hope it isn't the last time we all get to see all of you in the same place. And to all of the friends I've been able to meet, thank you and I love you. You, along with the other conference goers, have put a deep impression in my heart and made the last half decade well worth every moment. I hope to see you again soon in person. Thank you. And finally, from one of my favorite books titled Alcoholics Anonymous, the last paragraph of the Program of Recovery, page 164. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Chad. So beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful note. So he might pop in if he gets the time. But we're going to do this Estuary style. By now, most people should know what Estuary is. It's sort of 4 rounds. Introduction, we've already done that. Pitch, point, play. So Pastor Pacheco, with all of our P alliterations, what would you like to pitch?
Especially if we're in the context of Midwestary and conferences of the sort, we tried to begin incorporating art. So far, we only included some musical introductions before each speaker. We ended with a song, and we had Chad put together a bunch of the branding videos. But I'm very curious what other people think about including art, music, visual arts, maybe interpretive dance, and Luke doing interpretive dance in a tank top and a leotard. Incorporating different artistic aspects into what we're doing in terms of conferences and other aspects of this little corner.
Okay. Thank you, Mo. Jess, what would you like to pitch?
I like to pitch wisdom. Paul, sort of the ongoing stuff that you've been talking about in that panel discussion with Vervaeke and Peugeot, and then the videos that you made afterwards. I only saw most of the one you made the day after. But what is wisdom? How do we know it? John Vervaeke has some very great guidelines of like how I think to get us started. But then to throw a monkey into the wrench, we throw the book of Job in, because Job sort of contradicts some of Vervaeke's signs of wisdom. And so the question of, is Job wise or not, all of a sudden, or what is Job's role then if he's not wise, or if he has wisdom, what type of wisdom is it? That's my pitch.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Kale, what would you like to pitch?
I'm going to go ahead and pass.
All right. Kale's going to pass, and you're putting pressure on me to pitch. Luke, surely you'll pitch something.
Yeah, I think so. I got together with my local Minnesota crew, and we started talking about a Minnesota event. We're thinking about it. And I think my pitch would be the effect of place on TLC events, both geographically, but also even within your region, like the building, the setting, the medium of the event.
Okay. I write these things down because I have faulty memory. Mr. Griswold Grimm, General Gaius Grimm of the Third, or we're the Second LARP Ingression Protocol.
We're about to be into the greater regional ingression protocol. So
Okay.
hold off
So
on
what would you like to pitch?
Proalicity, parasociality, and panels. at events like this. Just,
What was the middle P?
Parasociality.
Yeah.
Like the micro celebrity supernova phenomenon. The number of cameos at the barbecue that make explicit that's all that we all felt regarding that.
Okay.
Was what my pitch is. Yeah.
All right. I think I think part of I've been after this event, people have been asking me about Estuary. There's been an uptick in people that have been expressing interest in Estuary, especially from churches, from some CRC churches, which encourages me. And so I've been doing a lot of Estuary selling over the last, since the conference. But I will pass because I said kind of your role as moderator gets bound to you. Make sure there's enough on the table. I think there's enough on the table, even with 4 pitches. So I will pass. And now we will point. Mo, what would you like to point to?
Well, as a pastor, I'm very interested in wisdom literature and the Book of Job and how it fits into that. And actually, I just took a course on Old Testament interpretation where a section was on wisdom literature. So I'd love to engage that conversation with Jess.
All right. Mo points to Jess. Jess, what would you like to point to?
I'll point to Luke, place as having some importance for these type of events, but also had some conversations during Midwestary just about, I think it was in response to Rod Dreher talking about pilgrimage and just like American pilgrimages. And like, we don't have old ancient religious sites that, we have some that are maybe Native American or that are older than our, when the pilgrims came. But other than that, we have, what's a sacred site in America? What would you pilgrimage to? How could we think about that in terms of like when we're planning these kind of things and where we should gather and that kind of thing.
All right. Kale, what would you like to point to?
Sure. So just so I'm clear, I am not allowed to weave in this stage. Is that correct?
You can weave. You're allowed to weave.
Jess is telling me no.
I'm the host. You
okay.
may weave.
Okay. Well, as I was, my vote was originally going to be Grimm, but I wonder if there's a weave to be had between pilgrimage, Proalicity, and the Canterbury Tales as both an expression of playing in and through profiles and playing with profiles. There's a lot there, Grimm. But I guess I'll point to Grimm because I really would like to talk about Proalicity and parasociality because if this is the stage where I can be a little personal, like that was totally shocking to me. And I don't know why I was shocked by that, but I was just blown away, humbled, and just, blown away.
All right. Kale gets his first experience of the other side of being a being of light. And it is also disturbing. It is. All right. Lukey Luke, what would you like to point to?
Can I think I want to pass. Can I pass this one?
No.
You can't pass
You
during the
can
point.
weave, but you can't pass.
Okay, I like all the topics. Now that Kale said what he said, that makes me like that topic. But I was gonna just point to Jess because Jess is my friend, and I love Jess, and I like to talk about Job. I want to promote as much of Job as I can with Jess.
All right.
I'm just gonna go Jess.
Okay, good. That's really helpful for me. All right, Mr. GG, what would you like to point to?
Well, understanding democracy the way I do, realizing that we're stuck talking about Job again. I want to point to the placeness of Luke and art's place in our presentations. I think that could be a valuable discussion for future events. And that if this is going to be a post-Midwestuary thing, looking toward the future is a good way to do it.
Well, I sort of have the tiebreaker because we've sort of got 2 points to Jess and 2 points to Grizz. And I'm going to, boy, it's tough. Boy, that's tough. I'm gonna point to, I'm gonna do a little weave, and because of that Kale wove, and try and weave a little Jess and Grizz, because one of the, at least in Reformed tradition, there's, one of the aspects of wisdom literature is that it is located within the domain of general revelation. One of the things that you notice in wisdom literature is that in Proverbs and in other elements of wisdom literature, there is an integration of non-Hebrew wisdom into the writings, and that's an element that, there's always sort of behind the scenes. You have the Jerusalem versus Athens tension in the corner. And that really comes through with Eastern Orthodoxy, because one of the things that happens with Eastern Orthodoxy very early on is this real working at trying to integrate Platonism with Christianity. And some might argue that for some, Platonism or even Neoplatonism sort of either gets subsumed in Christianity or Christianity gets subsumed in Platonism and Neoplatonism. But that the question of Proalicity and pilgrimage, as Kale said, that's a really nice, interesting cross. So usually what I like to do when someone sort of wins the vote is I want to sort of hand it to the person that got the vote. So I'm going to tip towards Grizz. And Grizz, talk a little bit more about your pitch, and then we'll see how that weaves into the other things put on the table. Corn.
You're muted.
Sorry.
I couldn't tell if you were. I couldn't tell if you were thinking or talking with that prodigious mustache cascading over your lip.
I wanted to see what nature was capable of with that, so I just let it run for a while. But being I think it's a pico celebrity is what we finally come down to versus nano or micro. But being one, like this whole, especially at the barbecue, where it was like everybody who showed up was a cameo. And so there was this way that the part of the experience for me was the feeling of what I assume would be like a long-running TV series.
Yeah,
like
I kept thinking of Norm.
Right, that it's like these are the rest of the cast, and I'm first experiencing the behind the scenes. That's, I don't know. There was that aspect of it for me, and I don't know like how that relates to the pilgrims who show up, and like how much of it's on all of us that appear on screens to acknowledge that when they come up to us. We have to be more outward facing than we might otherwise be in the environment.
That is and boy, I've had a little bit more experience with this because, at let's say we go back to Thunder Bay, and also as a pastor, you have some of that. A pastor is sort of a minor celebrity in their own church to a degree because you're up on stage, but the camera distorts, and this is part of the, when I think about the value of large events versus the value of small events, I find that, especially if you're in a little group of 8 to 10 people in an estuary, that dynamic of the illusion of the screen begins to recede quickly, very quickly. I'm not a celebrity. My status doesn't have the sort of distortion field it might bring. but we can begin to know each other much more directly in real life. I think that's a super important thing, because the celebrity distortion field impacts both sides of the field in often a deleterious way. And what's interesting is that, you know, I sort of brought you on here because in terms of, let's say, screen exposure, you know, Mo, you've probably been on screen the least. Jess has his own channel, but not everybody in the TLC might know Jess. Kale is around. Luke and Grizz, I mean, you two are sort of, you know, really anybody who's deep in the TLC and gets to a certain level, they will have, let's say, done a pilgrimage of sorts to Grim Grizz's channel and, you know, saw what his channel is, or to Luke's channel, got in touch with the fancy Luke words that are used at Luke's channel. So yeah, and that's a thing, and it's something that I think in some ways we're trying to do something counter narrative here in terms of using YouTube. We're trying to, in a way, use YouTube against itself, use social media against itself. And this is an issue and a barrier that we face. So, Kale, I'm interested to hear a little bit more from you, because I think for you, this conference was kind of a real experience of, oh, more people watch my channel than I knew. I am not just sort of one of the regular guys now. I've been elevated. What do I do with that?
Yeah. I you know, I even though, you know, the population of school changes every year, you know, with the seniors graduating and the third formers showing up, you know, in just a couple of days here. You know, I live a fairly obscure life. Yeah, I really do. Again, this is like, I'm just telling you how I was thinking of this. And much of what I do, you know, on the YouTube thing is, you know, I go in my little barn, or I go here in my room with my many books behind me, right? And just talk into this camera. And it's just a weird thing. I mean, maybe I should have thought more about the fact that people watch my videos. But in terms of my meat space reality, you know, I'm still fairly obscure. Like I would imagine that maybe 2 or 3 of my colleagues know that I even do this. You know, I mean, they, you know, so, and, you know, I did that show with Rod, you know, for what I did for a couple of years. And I bet a couple of people knew that I did that, you know. So it was really humbling to me that people, like, number one, were a little bit scared to come and talk to me. You know, like they were kind of sheepish about, like, oh, and they, you know, they're calling me Mr. Zeldin, like, which is, and I get it, and I do play that role all the time, right? I mean, I put on my tie and I put on my blazer and my khakis, and I play the role of prep school teacher, and I'm Mr. Zeldin. So, but it was wonderful to and people wanted to talk about, like, teaching stuff, you know, inside baseball, like, what do you do with this? And like, that was just pretty amazing. And, you know, and had people come and they wanted me to pray with them. And so I did. And like, that's, you know, I'm sure this doesn't come as a huge shock to you all, but in Roman Catholic circles, that's a little bit odd for a layman to go to another layman to ask. Now, I have a little bit of experience with the whole charismatic thing, so I've become, and I spent a lot of time with evangelicals, especially when I lived out in Los Angeles. So I have kind of developed that muscle a little bit, but because my real life world, my meat space world, is so obscure, I was just just taken for quite a a loop on that one. Not in a bad way. I'm not no complaints here. I hope people understand. I'm not complaining about it. It was just I just keep coming back to this word. It was just very humbling. It was just very humbling.
So,
oh, can I just add one more thing,
yep.
Luke? And you know, and I'm very glad that I made the decision like early on with all this stuff to, you know, use my real name, even though it's gotten me into hot water from time to time. You know, and I really, you know, to Grimm's point about Proalicity and the inherent dangers of playing a role in this liminal space, this virtual space that's not really a space, but it's a pass through. You know, I think I made a kind of tacit personal swear that I would do my best to be as close to me as possible, while having a little fun with it, of course. But, you know, so I think questions of alignment are real, at least in terms of the way that I've decided to play this game, right? That for me, it's inherently a spiritual practice that whatever I log on and do like this, or with my own channel, with my little 20-minute videos or my interviews, that I'm trying to present as much of the realness of me as I can through the 2D, you know, sort of the moving 2D that video and social media represent.
So I think related to all this, a few thoughts. The Pico celebrity thing or whatever it's not so much that like that thing doesn't come up for me or is that much of an issue. It's more just like the scale of the conference being so large that you can't spend enough time with anyone, no matter who it is, whether it's someone like Kale. I remember specifically thinking like I would have loved to spend more time with you and hang out and talk, and we just never did. It didn't happen. Or Mo, you know, like I don't think I ever hung out and talked with Mo. I got to spend a lot of time with Jess, which was great. But or even PBK, because you're just there's something too that I have even like I loved Elizabeth, and I got to hang out with her a little bit at a game before all this started, but I was wanting to come up with her and talk to her about communes and things, because I've been, probably not much of a surprise, interested in communes for forever. And but I have this weird part of it's Christian YouTube versus TLC to me. Part of it, I have this weird aversion to I guess being a Pico celebrity. I don't want to go talk to other celebrities because I don't know how to talk to you. Like at the KP or what, I was sitting next to Joe and I'm like, I don't know what to say to you, and I don't really want to talk to you about anything. I don't even know what we talk about. And part of it is the way that I run my channel, even Grimm, like PVK, when you say Grimm's channel is unwatchable, to me, that's a feature, not a bug. Because like you can't, it's the steep slope part of TLC that I love, and it's non-scalable, which I love it. I love things that are intentionally non-scalable. My channel, like Demir was in my group and he kept telling everyone about my channel and how great he's, like the biggest hype man in the world in like our Estuary. And I was just like, dude, stop it. I'm like, they would all hate it. No one in here should go to my channel because it's terrible. But I don't even know that it's intentionally that way. It's kind of like what Kale said. I don't think I'm any different online than I am in real life, really. It's the medium's going to be different, so you're going to see different things. But I don't talk about my family nearly as much as I would in real life. That's a different thing, I suppose. But I don't know. The Christian YouTube versus TLC thing is very different because I do think we're very different. And Chicago was the most Christian YouTube of the events probably that we've had, because of celebrity and scale and Rod Dreher and big names and people coming who probably don't really understand what I think is the heart of TLC, which is the randos, the personal stories, that stuff.
And it's, I mean, part of, Rod Hare and I always talk about my, because Rod, I think about Rod Hare and Aaron Wren. Because Rod Hare always says, TLC has not with the possible exception of Grim Grizz, TLC has not adequately thought through the financial aspect to this. And, you know, I listened to Rod. Rod's got a ton of wisdom. I really appreciate Rod. Rod is sort of an elder statesman in this group of mostly people younger than I am. Rod's a little younger than I am too. But the other aspect I think about is the mask. And Mo will know this too, because Mo, in fact, has in his thing, Pastor Moises Pacheco right there in his little underneath. And I am, as a pastor, you're always working with the fact that the community requires you to play a role, to, in a sense, put on a mask, and masks are earlier elements of Proalicity. When, let's say, the shaman, or, you know, I spent my summer in Native American sites, you know, when they would put on a mask, they become the god. And they have a function within that community to play by virtue of the mask. And Protestants have long sort of been playing with this because, for example, I was playing with Kale a little bit in the 60s and very early 70s. My father would wear his clerical collar. Clerical collars are coming back in terms of even Protestant clergy, even Christian Reformed clergy now. But Aaron Wren's, you know, sort of pushing back against Protestant egalitarianism is when you have a place in a community of prominence, and I think everyone on this live stream does, and that's why I gathered who I did here. All of you have a place of prominence in the TLC and in other communities. Kale has a place of prominence. He's a school teacher. Mo, and so we all have those roles to play. And so sometimes you have to don the mask, and sometimes you have to take off the mask. And then this is where it sort of crosses into Luke's topic of space, where you have to know the space, because one of us here in this group masks his name, and one of us, you know, in a sense LARPs on his channel, and that's a function of, let's say, this sort of gets into then pilgrimage, sacred space, because he in a sense wears a vestment, because his channel has a there's a placeness to Grim Grizz's channel that there isn't to some of our other channels. And so that is connected with this question of, okay, who are we? How does the screen distort? How, in fact, do we manage this virtual not alone when the not aloneness is requiring if we are on YouTube, already there is a mask between us and the watcher.
I like where you're going with that, but I think to a certain degree, an element of mask or a barrier between a barrier to intimacy, so to speak, is inevitable. And the idea of there's always these tools to try to get towards intimacy. And to a certain degree, you can kind of create this dichotomy between Proalicity and intimacy. There's the idea of me that I'm trying to get everybody to see. And then there's intimacy, which is the reality of me, sometimes which I can't even see myself. And these masks are tools, but the tool can be used towards far more intimacy. So I go by Pastor Moises Pacheco, which helps people know that I am ordained. Moises, I am Latino. But it can also be used to prevent intimacy. Okay, I am trying to show off that I'm a pastor, because look at me, I'm a pastor. I have certain knowledges, because I don't want people to see certain things about me. And we don't always know which one, especially if we're interacting with somebody. If I'm interacting with Kale, I don't know if he's using this as a way to prevent intimacy, to prevent me from seeing aspects of Kale, or if he's using this because he wants me to see the deeper parts of Kale. And so there's always a bit of that risk involved. Which way is he trying to manipulate me towards towards seeing the mask to prevent intimacy, or seeing the mask to see deeper sides of him more quickly, if that makes sense.
Well, I think so. If I'm following what you're saying, Mo, it's, you know, that perhaps an important, something to inject into this conversation and just to this larger sense, thing of how do we understand what we're doing here? The dramatic metaphor is probably a helpful and a useful one. What is stagecraft, and like, why would I rather see, I don't know, like somebody like Robert De Niro, like I'm not all that interested in an interview with him. I would much prefer to see him pretend to be, some conflicted, bloodthirsty mobster, right? That a real actor should be kind of boring in real life, and or shy or what have you, in order to protect the attention that he commands when he's in front of a camera, or if you think of a performer, like a rock performer or whatever, just some sort of musical act, that there's there's a, why do we pretend? Why do we want to, nobody like really cares about, what I went through to, get out the house this morning, take out the trash and, run to BJ's to pick up provisions for the family, whatever it is. Like, that's like, I mean, yeah, like I do that like everybody else. That's not, at least in terms of the way that I understand what I'm trying to do, like, that's not the point. I think what I'm trying to do here, and on my channel or on X is something quite different than, a day in the life of a high school teacher. Though it presumes all of that, right? I mean, it's, it's not just that I've, like ChatGPT had, a bunch of PDFs uploaded into my server. My hope is sort of the opposite. Yeah, I've read a bunch of these things. The PDFs have been fed into my consciousness or in my memory bank, but that's not terribly interesting. Just like I guess like ChatGPT in and of itself is not terribly interesting, or it shouldn't be terribly interesting. But rather it's that peculiar interplay between wisdom literature and the analogy of being, or something like that. I don't know if that makes sense.
A lot of what we're playing with here. So this morning, Neil sent me the lovely couple from Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Had a
Miles.
They had such a lovely, they're so darn cute, in terms of, I mean, it was just lovely. But I'm cognizant of the fact that when we encourage people to sort of come out of the lurk in a screen atmosphere, that this issue that probably a tiny minority of people had to deal with, if you watch something like The Crown, you can see this issue that the royalty is dealing with. To what degree can we be IRL people with real desires, notes, and struggles? And to what point do we have a public responsibility to play a role for the sake of a group? And this is being, Andy Warhol, everyone's going to have 15 minutes of fame. Yeah. This is being foisted on everyone. And one of the things that we've seen in this media environment is that, there's wreckage in people's lives regularly about this. And even when it comes to things like mass shootings, that's an element of this, because so often these people who do this, they are striving to participate in a pantheon. They're striving, and so they are looking at others, and they are willing to sacrifice their life, and even more grimly, the lives of many other innocent victims, in order to achieve something in this attention sphere. And we're sort of playing with this at a low level, but pastorally, just in the last, another video that surfaced in the last couple of days, and somebody playing in this sphere now, I at one hand we can sort of joke, but sometimes pastorally I see someone getting into it, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to harm them, because there is power here, and power can go either way.
I was kind of thinking about the power of the mask and how, like, because it's on, it allows people to hear things at a different level. Like even the ridiculous hierarchy of, like, people look at you. Like, for some people, at least two people during Midwestuary, it meant something to them that the guy they met at Midwestuary was Meet the Guy with the Channel. And, like, what I said to them was more important than, and so that gives them a permission slip to make a change because of where they got the information. And those kind of, like, the way those things influence our personal narratives and the story we tell ourselves about our lives is fascinating to me. But like, I felt like as a team member of not only, like, the people putting on the estuary, but everybody I recognized from the screens, like that, like we were a layer. And I don't know, it was a weird thing, but it felt like support staff, I guess. Like default support staff, like, just because we knew everybody that was there from the screens was in alignment already, I think.
Why was
use some churchy language? I think this is why Paul uses the idea of the body. Like, I think of, you have all these celebrity people that came in and made this happen, right? I mean, so certainly even Sam is a bit of that celebrity. Everybody knows him, and he was part of the planning team. You got guys like Dan on the planning team, has almost no profile here. But the conference doesn't happen without him. The relationships that were built, even on the low level of the estuary, don't happen without Dan. But nobody knows Dan, and so it's kind of like, it's almost like my ankle. Nobody cares about my ankle, but I don't walk around estuary without my ankle contributing. So it's like all of us, known and unknown, are part of this body that has come together to make something meaningful happen.
And there are major players in this space that intentionally stay cloaked. And some of have met them, their names. And of course, this then incites questions of conspiracy. And if they're not, it's not like nobody's saying, don't say, Dan didn't say, Mo, don't say my name on the internet. Jess P, there's just, his last initial instead of his whole name. And so, again, we are working and living in a really interesting time and space. Now, LLMs came up obviously at the conference, and once the videos come out, I think a lot of people will be very interested in some of that LLM discussion. And obviously, the LLM discussion has sort of raised my salience with respect to these machines. But that's part of it, because we are, in a sense, the cost of becoming a god in our world today is sort of a Gmail account and a viral moment or a little bit of cleverness by which you can I mean, you can change world history, and whether it's, you know, there's a spectrum here, whether it's a, you know, whether it's a teenage girl who looks really good and has a clever dance and can, you know, rise to the height of TikTok and then use that to leverage. I mean, I guess Britt, what's her, Hartley, who I did some videos with before. I mean, she sort of rose on TikTok, has this Mormon deconstruction story, and is leveraging that into, that's now her day job. She is now internet famous, an internet celebrity. And whereas before you had gatekeepers of universities and all of those things, now to be a god, what does it take? Now, and also to be a fallen god or a failed god. Someone mentioned Milo Yiannopoulos. I hadn't seen Milo forever, and I saw Milo and Candace, what's her last name? Owens having a conversation together, and it's like, wow, what kinds of gods are these? What kind of a god is Kanye now? Because we are really in the time of gods again in that sense, but these are these gods make up the spiritual life probably of far more Americans than attend church.
By the power of set.
Yeah, well, Taylor Swift, I mean, Kale, you said it on Twitter. I mean, Taylor, you know, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift get engaged, and Kale's like, more people are going to get married. And so they are gods, and they are incarnations of archetypes.
Yeah. Because,
So,
go ahead.
so Jess, I was wondering if you have thoughts, but my thoughts are, I talk to Chad pretty regularly about these things. And part of the reason that I like PVK and I stay in this corner, besides that we become friends, is I like the way that you handle things. Like it feels like sometimes you almost intentionally are self-sabotage your own channel just to keep it small and do things that just make the people who are interested, for what I would say are not deeper, more personal reasons, they just leave. Like people that are interested in information economy or like ideological groups online, like they're going to get sick of you really fast and leave. That's how my channel is. That's how Grimm's channel is. Like you're not going to be able to navigate it. And that's part of what I think TLC is doing through our Proalicity. So then no matter what, there's going to be hierarchies. There's going to be lights and celebrity and stars that people navigate by. There's going to be heads to bodies, because that's just the way the world lays out, I think. But can we use all of that to what degree can you really be known through the medium of this techne and this Proalicity? To what degree can you really manifest? Because a lot of this talks at the conference, both for Vicky, Elizabeth, I didn't pay as much attention to Rod, sorry, are about the necessity of difference and relation and knowing. A lot of it was like all my stuff of personalist knowing as you are known. Like that is essential to true knowledge. And I don't think you can get that through mere information economies, because it's just like, what is information? Meaning is personal, it's relational.
Yeah.
And I think we're trying to do that. That's what TLC is about. That's what I contrast against Christian YouTube. The comments to me matter on my channel. I couldn't care less how many likes or views it gets. I want to know the people in the comments and I want to interact with them. That's what's important to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing any of this. I couldn't care less. I don't want this to be a job.
Luke, I have no idea what you mean by Christian YouTube. And
People
I'm
who
not being a jerk. Like I
people
don't know
who
what
are
you're
just
talking
trying
about.
to get clicks.
Yeah, I assume he means the denomination salesman.
Yeah, that too. If my channel was, I mean, there are a number of people who write me and say, you know, why don't you really promote the Christian Reformed Church? Why don't you really promote our confessional stance and accentuate the differences between us and the Catholics, and the Methodist and the Orthodox, and make that the hallmark of your channel. That, in a sense, is Christian YouTube. You're always selling.
Okay, so the version, like in Catholic world, that's like the apologetics folks, the debate me folks. This is why Catholics believe in X, Y, or Z folks. That's what you mean by that, Luke?
Yeah. The difference between what's the ortho dude Dyer?
Jay Dyer,
Jay Dyer and Jonathan Peugeot. That's the difference of Christian YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I agree. And just personally, whenever I decided to just hit record back in the day, I was I literally wrote it down on my little notebook. My thought, my journal is like, I am not a Catholic YouTuber. I will not play the role of Catholic YouTuber, and it's not exactly like I hide it. I'm sure most people know that I'm Catholic, but it's not. And I even talk about Catholic things from time to time, but I have a kind of an allergy to that, an allergy to that as well, Luke.
And I think I want to add to that. Luke was talking about the relational aspect, and not just being information, and that's why I think these conferences are so important, because they bring in the embodied aspect of it. Kale, I think, tweeted he didn't understand how important it was to hug some of these friends that he's made, and I do think that's significant, is getting there. These big names draw people in, but it's important that they're drawn in to be there in person, to hug Kale. This will sound really weird, but to smell. There's aspects to knowing someone, like odors, textures. That's, you can break it down to information, but it's a bombardment of information that you don't get until you're there in person.
Yeah.
And Vendonk and Jess, we definitely want to get you in on this conversation if you want to.
Yeah, sorry.
And Vendonk, who obviously loves Estuary and understands that in a small group, that screen of light, that veil of light that separates us tends to diminish. We are, in a sense, using the celebrities. I'm thinking about, what I could do at Living Stones. And before I was thinking I'd do smaller sort of celebrity type conferences. But the more I think about it, I'm thinking maybe a 25 or 50 person conference or a 12 or 24 person conference where we're just doing Estuary things. And if celebrities want to come, they can come. I'll comp Jonathan Peugeot on the fee, so that Peugeot will. But the point is, we're not going to do the stage event. But yet, I also see the benefit of having the stage event and the in-group, the back and forth between those, which I think Nate worked really well at Northwestuary, was a potent thing. And I think we'll probably see some of that in Southeastuary.
I'm
Jess,
a little bit more. Go ahead, Jess. Talk.
Well, it makes me think of
the Book of Job. We know, but
I know. Back in my younger days, when I was a part of the Christian mission stuff, I went on a lot of short-term mission trips. So short-term meaning anywhere from a week to 3 months, and is that real life when you're with these people for the 1 week to 3 months? Like a lot of almost all my experiences with that were good. Some people they have terrible experiences. My case was like, they were all good. So one thing that happens when people have good experiences, they have to go back home. And for a young person who's like, they just graduate high school, they go do some missions work before they're going to go do college or whatever they do next. One thing we would have to do is we spent some time debriefing and really, like, I think even some in some places they actually do like follow-up calls after they get home, because it's really a problem. Like it's like disheartening. You have this sort of spiritual high and you come down, and then you're dealing with all the same people that you had to deal with before. And it gets to, I just started watching that Matthew Peugeot video about identity, and the, Kurt asked him at the beginning, he's like, who are you? And he's like, well, I mean, my identity is like, I kind of know who I am, but also people tell me who I am, and I don't have to necessarily accept that, but I could fight against it, but it also plays into how I'm perceived. And so it's all this, and he kind of talks about the complexity of that. And so when we're in a like a spiritual high situation, and I would say Midwestary was that for me, there is a sort of identity that I have at Midwestary or any spiritual high situation, because of how people see me or view me, whether it's micro celebrity or just me in this situation at this self, as this self, on the mission field with these people. That's how I experienced it back in the day. And then me when I'm back home with all the people that I went to middle school with, they see me as different than, and it isn't even in the Gospels where Jesus is like talking about how a prophet isn't welcome in his hometown. And one of the ways that people dismissed him was they said, we know his brothers and his mother. Like, we know who he is. Like, why would he, and he had to like kind of leave that. And so there's this weird tension, like, am I really my true self when I'm back home shopping for groceries? Or am I my true self when I'm on the missions field with this missions team? Am I really my true self when I'm, at Midwestuary, hugging and smelling Luke,
Well,
or one more thing.
Mm.
I had kind of a, like the weekend kind of built for me, because we went to Jason Almontree's wedding, which was incredibly beautiful. And so that was an experience too, being with Luke was there, Jacob was there, Cal was there. Like, I got to see these people, be there with Jason and see his beautiful wife and hang out. And like, it was totally, it was surreal. So I felt like the whole weekend built up all the way to this like pinnacle moment. And then it was even stranger for me. Well, my wife was there for one, like, she's a part of this now. And so like, it's all these sort of worlds colliding. But not only that, it's in Colorado Springs. And that was where I was based out of as a missionary. And a friend of mine came who I hadn't seen in 25 years. And we did missions work together. He was like 5 years older than me. So we didn't necessarily hang out, but we did spend 6 months together in a school. So we knew each other very well. But he came to the wedding to meet me, but he's an Orthodox priest now. And so it was wild. Like, I was exhausted. I was like also like riding this wave, like enjoying myself. My wife's there, my friends are there. We're sitting at this table in the basement of an Orthodox church, listening to like just party music, and everyone's dancing, and like, and then my friend, the priest, is sitting across from me. Like, it was completely wild. Now, I'm just thinking of this in terms of how we are perceived, how people see us, how we view ourselves. Like, who am I? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Go.
I was just going to say, I don't know the answer to your question, Jess, but I've had the same question, in the last few days, especially as I'm sitting in the audience for the 3-day opening of the school year faculty meetings. And, I'm just like listening to, the retirement plan, and I'm listening about the change of policy about Uber, and I'm, all these kind of, very pedestrian but necessary things. And, but I do know this, that that when I was there this weekend, I don't know when the last time I quite felt so much myself and who I think I am than I did this past weekend. I could truly,
wow.
and the only time I ever get that is very obscure, right? Like there are times, it's like, what is it? What's the name of the runner, the Presbyterian runner in Chariots of Fire? Eric Little, I think is the name.
Yeah,
and he's talking to his sister, I believe, and he says something like, when I run, I feel his pleasure. I think that's the line.
Yep.
And I, guys and whoever's in the hive mind and listening, like, man, I just felt that so friggin' profoundly this weekend. And it's not just like, I had fun on stage, like that's fun, and I think you could probably, if you were watching closely, you could see me kind of ease into feeling more comfortable as the days stretched and stretched and stretched.
I was editing the videos for the conference. I purposely left in all your little banter because it was so good.
Yeah, well, but that's funny. But to feel, to feel fully alive like that, it usually happens somewhat unexpectedly at like third period on a random Thursday with 15-year-olds sitting around me. And like, that's great. And like, that's the juice that kept me back, keeps me doing what I do, but it's still a relatively obscure thing. And so, how much, Jess, like how much do you remember from sophomore year English class, middle of, November, right? Yeah. And again, I love my high school kids. Like they're wonderful and amazing. And they humor me as I kind of go off into my little, thought tangents when something pops into my head and I'm all, geeking out in front of the classroom. And like, I know they get it on some level, like, oh, like Mr. Zeldin is kind of in his flow state right now. He's in that zone. And like, they're very appreciative and they're very kind and polite. And they always say thank you on their way out. And some of them will even say, man, Mr. Zeldin, that was really good today. And that's fantastic. It really, really is good. But man, y'all were talking about scale earlier, like to have that feeling in front of 300 people is just like, I don't know what to do with that. I just like personally, like, I don't know what to do with that because, reentry is reentry. And so I come home and who's going to feed the dogs? Who's going to empty the dishwasher? Who's going to take out the trash? Who's going to sweat over the checking account to pay that first tuition bill? Like all that stuff is also very real. But, part of you wants to say like, man, did anybody just see what happened last weekend? Like that was cool. Like I was pretty good, but my dogs don't give a rat's behind. Like they just want to make sure they get some stir-ins for the dry crap, Like,
What is it? We got calls for you to respond to this, Grizz, because again, I can identify with what Kale says there. And it's a big part of the TLC because a big part of this thing is people come to a conference like this and they're like, I'm with my people. I don't have to small talk. I can unapologetically use the fancy Luke words with Jess and everyone will get me.
When Jess was talking about the spiritual high aspect of it, and then like going back to grocery shopping, it occurred to me that part of this parasociality thing that we have going on is that the times we're in communion with the screen are also times when like all of those realities have been handled. So like all the things that we don't want to do, or all the things we see as things we have to deal with as part of our lives that get in the way of being what we really want, which is to sit in front of the screen. And then in those at the event, the person that's sitting in front of that gets when all their other stuff is done, sitting in front of the screen is the person you're embodying at the event.
Mm.
And so, I don't know. I think, and that's
Yeah, that's a great point because, one of the things at an event like this is, Kale can't leave the stage to get water, so someone will bring water to him. And
right.
there's a hotel
that does not happen in my life.
right. There's a hotel room waiting for
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
and someone will take you where you need to go. So that's a great point, Grizz. But
Yeah,
I'm curious. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I mean, a high point is, I think, the way to think about it, and you can't necessarily live on top of a mountaintop, so you come down, and so how to. I mean, I'm just trying to think of it in terms of like, who are we? Are we only our true selves on the top? Are we only our true selves when we're grocery shopping? And there is something to like when you're in the grocery store and no one's watching you or no one, and then how you treat the cashier and how you act in the store is who you truly are, or behind closed doors where no one sees you, or where you won't get caught, or like, is that your true self, or is your true self like being Kale and just like, I get to do something that I love, and like I just feel like I I don't think we can necessarily boil down identity to either one of those, or
Right.
to, but it's sort of like be thankful for what you have when you have it, and at least that's what I have to do, because I just loved it so much. What am I supposed to do? Like, kind of be like, oh, that wasn't real. I mean, what am I?
Enjoy it, but feel bad about it.
Yeah.
climbing the mountain toward the next one.
What's that?
You start climbing the mountain toward the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the libidinal pursuit of the lack, and Peter Rollins would be the only speaker I want at the Minnesota conference. So the thing that I thought about, though, is I become all things to all people, that for the sake of Christ I may win some, combined with McLuhan's the medium is the message, and in Christ the medium and the message are the one place where they're the same thing. And so when you are what the situation calls for, whether it's on top of the mountain or whether it's doing groceries, you're manifesting Christ to the world in every medium. And I think what TLC is about, contra to the mammon of Christian YouTube, is we're trying to do that through this medium, through these screens, trampling down the algorithm by the algorithm.
Now, for this reason, if people have been talking about wanting to do smaller events, and Sam just released a video where he talked about, we're not doing one next year, we need to give time between them. I'm of the mind of the opposite of that, really. I mean, if this really is a meaning crisis, what happened there is so meaningful to so many people, and there's a whole lot of people that weren't there, I'm like, man, we need to do this more often, and maybe in the future. Great, let's make them more intimate. But if the problem is so big right now, I'm like, maybe we do need to do something bigger. Maybe we need to do one in Minnesota that's 400 or 500 people. I don't know, but I'm like, if there really is a big problem, and that problem is so widespread as I feel like I'm seeing that it is, I think more needs to be done.
Chad, you came in. I know you're going to have time and here and there to speak. I don't know if you've been tracking the conversation at all.
Oh yeah. I've been listening. It's great conversation. I probably shouldn't have dropped in. I didn't want to be butting in too much. I mean, yeah. I don't know if more big conferences are going to solve anything. I think I had such a great experience. I was on such a massive high when I got home that I couldn't see some things that were important at home. So like I had to be careful. I think that's what I'm trying to say is like to play with these kinds of things. If you're not somebody who has ever been able to manage attention very well, be careful. You know, yeah, that's all. That's all. You know, I think I think it was an incredible event, and I think that uh, more things like this are going to be really good and useful. I always saw the Midwestary event conference as an opportunity for outreach and being able to connect new audiences with people that are already in the TLC, who are already having conversations on a friendly level and relationships with each other. I thought that that was the whole, like, pulling in Rod Dreher and Elizabeth Oldfield were an opportunity to reach out to a wider audience. So to me, it was an outreach event, but I'm not sure if more events and bigger events are going to be, or even small events or less events are going to solve anything. And I've been thinking about this idea of going from uh, Proalicity to incarnicity. And I don't know what that means exactly, but it's something that's really been on my mind. This idea of, I think it's something what Luke is talking about, um, uh, with being with Christ, in Christ, or Christ within me. Um, I'm rambling. Um, you know, if you're gonna do this stuff, do the dishes, do the laundry, clean up the dog shit, spend eat at the dinner table, like do all those things. Otherwise, none of this means anything. And if you're going to go to big events, when you leave there, I think starting little estuary groups is going to be more of an answer to the problem than bigger events. So that's all I gotta say. Love you guys.
All right.
Love you
Thanks,
too,
Chad.
Chad.
The question of, so churches work at a clock speed of, you know, you have Sundays, you have midweek things. Jess, I love how you sort of put the two ends. Am I my true self when I am preaching? Am I my true self when I am having a quiet conversation with my wife, or interacting with my kids, or going to Costco to buy groceries for the I mean, ideally we want the integration, and what integrity means is that all of
Right.
this is integrated.
Right.
And you know, even though to some people, let's say Dreher or Oldfield or Peugeot or Vervaeke are celebrities, all of them will tell you of their of the difficulty of those roles for them in their life. I mean, Jonathan has been doing a lot of travel, and when you're sort of on the ascendancy, everybody wants a piece of you. I listened to a Chris Williamson video yesterday, which I thought was a really fine conversation with a woman who's a therapist. And then I decided to scroll on Chris's channel. He's nearing 4 million subs. Most of his videos currently over the last few weeks have between 10,000 and 30,000 views. And it's like, we have these metrics, and being on stage is a metric, and it can tell you something, but there's deceit in the messaging. And, you know, and then when I look at Christ, on one hand, the things he says about himself are just astounding. And then, you know, and then when he gathers his disciples in John 13, he washes the feet of his disciples. And of course, Peter pulls back and says, "You'll never wash my feet. You know, I'm going to put you up on that pedestal." And Jesus says, "Unless I wash your feet, you can have no part of me." And Jesus just scrambles these things for us. And so you have the Mount of Transfiguration, and you have Jesus with a towel around him washing the feet of his disciples. And Jesus keeps telling his disciples, I'm modeling for you what I want you to become. And of course, that scales down to Mo with, gosh, I can't imagine, 2-month-old twins. It is just going to be all hands on deck at the Pacheco house for a very long time. And the making money thing, boy, that's going to be hard. But Mo's going to have to both be Pastor Moises Pacheco and dad. Go ahead, Cal.
Well, I want to push back a little bit, not just to, or not, again, not, I'm not attacking anybody, but you know, after Moses comes down from the mountain, like, can you have a beer with Moses? Like, you know, like he's tapped, right? He's tapped. And I'm being somewhat absurd, sort of to push back, you know, I mean, I would argue that, yeah, like you probably, for Moses' sake, you probably needed to learn how to have a beer from time to time. But you can't really pretend that Moses didn't have a direct face-to-face interaction with the Almighty God.
But when these other guys are like, why is Moses so special? And Moses kind of takes a step back and is like, if you guys really want this job. And then the Lord cleans that up for him.
Right, but that's what I'm talking about, right? I mean, you know, keep it in the register of ministers, let's say. And, you know, I know you guys can speak to this, but it's like, you know, to receive the call, to respond to the call, to experience what you do as a result of hearing and responding to that call. You know, y'all are not normal. And I don't mean that in any kind of, I mean, I know it's funny when you say it out loud, but like, you're not, right? You know, Paul, you have very movingly spoken from time to time. You pick your spots, but like, what is it like to be with a family when dad is dying? What is it like to be with a family when their child is dying? Like, no, I don't do that. You know, so there's a knowledge, a wisdom, right? Because wisdom and experience, you know, knowledge and wisdom are sort of the building blocks of wisdom. You know, that's part of what the sacrifice is, to be in your role, official role as a kind of prophet for your flock. Yes, we all have a universal call to those things as Christians. I grant that, but it's not the same thing. Like, let's, you know, and so therefore, you know, and I think of, and I want to be careful, but, you know, you think of somebody like Rod. You know, you all know that I know Rod, like we're friends, and you know, and people will, you know, yeah, as you know, when you're a public figure and you say, you know, what you actually think out there, you know, you have your haters, you have your, you know, your frenemies and your enemies and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, part of me wants to push, I always want to defend my friends, but part of me wants to push back. And, you know, you, for whatever reason, somebody like Rod has been tapped. You know, and I think that one of the reasons why he sells books is because he's responded to that call. You know, what might come to one of us as a little bit of a flash of an insight or a question, like, oh, that's interesting. Rod will then like take and work out and put out there and stand behind it and put his name on the byline. And you know, there's a real cost to that. You know, so when he is in a group like the Estuary, you know, I can just see, you know, I can see ever so subtly, you know, he moves from, I'm going from conference to conference to conference, and I'm going to sort of do the drear, you know, the public drear thing, public drear thing, public drear thing. But then you sort of look around, you're like, well, wait, this is kind of a little bit of a different thing. And to see him kind of come out of that, you know, public facing mode and to, you know, listen to people and to hear people. I don't know. It's and I don't even really know what my point is, but I hear what Chad is saying, like, be the guy who comes home and takes out the trash. Like, yeah, of course. But I also think that there is one of the things I think many of us struggle with in the corner is, you know, how many times do you hear that? I have all these ideas, I have all these thoughts, and I've got nobody to talk to, right? And, you know, so yeah, that's true. That's exactly why I gravitate toward, you know, this group all the time. But at the same time, like, hierarchies, as we all say, are real. And, you know, there are those amongst us who are destined not to be able to have a beer anonymously, at the family picnic. And that's, again, there's no conclusion to this other than like that's real too.
Yeah.
I think of there's a great Nathaniel Hawthorne short story called The Minister's Black Veil. And if you've ever read it, it's really strange. But basically, he has some kind of vision. He's a young preacher and he has some kind of vision, and he has to wear a veil because what he has seen, we don't really know why, but apparently what he has seen has been so awesome in that kind of original sense that that he has to veil himself amongst his flock. And of course, it's incredibly off-putting. It's incredibly alienating on some level, but you get the sense that that it's an act of charity to everybody else to veil himself. It's strange. And so I don't know why I've been thinking about that, but that's what I'm thinking about.
I'm reminded, Cale, as you're talking about that, of Jess's point of wisdom and the book of Job. For a lot of Christians, when we think of wisdom, we think of the book of Proverbs.
Yeah.
But part of the wisdom literature is the book of Job and the book of Ecclesiastes. I think both are there to illustrate the same point. The book of Job, the main truth at the end of it is when God comes to Job and says, "Where were you when I created the heavens and the earth and the waters?" It's these answers that you want, you're not going to be able to grasp because there's only one God, and that's me. And it's similar in the book of Ecclesiastes. One of the beautiful parts of Ecclesiastes is the word that the writer uses to mean meaningless or vanity. Is this Hebrew word, which Jacob can correct me if I'm saying it wrong, chavel, which is actually the name for Abel that is murdered by his brother Cain in the book of Genesis. Wow. And after Abel is murdered, after Hevel is murdered, his name is no longer spoken in that story. It's like Hevel can no longer be grasped. And too often we're trying to grasp wisdom as if it can be made into a textbook. But wisdom cannot be grasped. It can only be pursued. And as we do conferences and we make estuary groups, the conferences, the right way to do it cannot be grasped. The amount of proper estuary groups, the right size of estuary groups cannot be grasped, but it ought to be pursued. And Joy pointed out, my ending liturgy at the end of the conference. That was my goal in trying to communicate that, is that what you've experienced here, go home and continue to pursue it. And ideally, there were hundreds of people at this conference that went home and will start to pursue that thing. And when we do another conference, there will be more people going on home and pursuing it, but we won't grasp it.
I'm inclined to just start doing quotes. Should I do the Tozer quote or the Rob Bell quote?
You decide.
Rob
Bell.
How about both? No Rob Bell? So Rob always says, like, God is he about whom we must never speak, but we must always keep speaking, and I think that's everything. He's essentially talking about things being an icon. Like you have to enact in the world, you have to make maps, you have to do things, but you realize it's never the end. It's never the actual thing. It's just part of the journey. And then the Tozer quote is, "To have found God and still pursue him is the soul's paradox of love, scorned indeed by the too easily satisfied religionist, but justified in happy experience by the children of the burning heart," which is a banger.
Wow, that is a banger.
Yeah.
Cale, it's, this question of set aside. I think about the Catholic priesthood with celibacy. When I was in Ireland, I had a chance to live with the friars for a little bit in Galway. And that was such a privilege to me to get a sense to share a table with them. They were so welcoming to me. But of course, for me, Irish Catholicism is sort of a foreign country in many ways.
Sure.
And, part of what the church is, part of what the church is doing is, through the Reformation, is continuing to play with these issues, because ordination is setting someone apart. you know, it is a funny thing when, you know, my father, why I wish my father were around for so many reasons that I'd love to hear him reflect on why the collar went away. And because that means something. And you know, so at our events often we'll have some Orthodox priests who will come in full regalia. I remember at ARC when Calvin Robinson, who had just recently gotten bounced from his denomination, goes walking through ARC in, you know, full regalia, and other Anglican clergy watching him, clergy without collar, just kind of looked at him like, what religious game is he playing? And of course, Jesus treats that in terms of the cursing of the fig tree. So those are such important issues. And again, part of what's happening with these screens is that the realm of the gods have come down to earth. And I think this is part of the why I sort of pointed finally to Grizz's, that I look at YouTube now and I see the creation of gods among us. And there are gods of many kinds on YouTube. And it doesn't, you know, and then you have, let's say, turn off the screen and just listen. I'll do that sometimes with certain YouTubers. I'll listen instead of watch, especially for the movie YouTubers, because it's the Hollywood iconostasis that, you know, all these little clips from Hollywood movies and all the gods that we see on the silver screen, they're just bombarding us with it. And then they're talking in our ears. And it's like, where are the savings throws? Because this is mind control.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Maybe an unspoken tenet of my YouTube stuff is no B-roll ever. You know what I mean? It's like no B-roll.
And again, this is what I think so many people. I want to get Jess to talk again, but this is what so many people I think don't understand about Grizz's channel, where there's a lot going on with this branding. What are we doing? We're using the weapons of the gods against themselves. I mean, and you know, the owls are not what they seem song is sort of using AI against itself. And so there's a lot of that in this corner. And a lot of people are frustrated because they really do want us to play it straight. And I don't
which is maybe not to be human.
Jess,
straight?
you're not. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Did Luke say playing it straight is being not human? I just wanted to point out that a lot of the branding is like so that the community can make stuff for itself. And it's not like I engineer most of those, you know, it's just a way for people to make gifts for each other.
Yeah.
And that it hits the commercial button is convenient.
It's upcycling, which is another, you know, really important member of this community.
But it's really binding. I mean, you know, when I was in the sanctuary and branding goes up, you know, how many of us were singing the song? How many of us were, you know, I mean, like, just it's binding. The branding is binding.
All right, Jess, you got to talk. I didn't bring you on here just to look pretty.
Oh man, I thought you just need my face for promotional purposes. Oh, I don't know. I was talking with Chad about how, because he put together a lot of those he edited together.
Yeah.
He gathered it from all the places, all the different places. But I was just talking to him about his process and how he was like, basically he tries not to think about it too much, and tries to put it together and until something basically interesting happens. He didn't say that, but that's kind of what I got from him. And so, you know, how do you know, it was interesting talking to him about that, because like in my job and in the way I make things is basically I think through everything.
Yeah.
But I still am sort of guided by the whole thing is like something interesting has to happen. Like I am like just because you think through something and you're meticulous doesn't mean anything happens. Like you can be meticulous and then it's garbage, or very, you can try to be slick and then nothing happens. So like I feel like there's some of commonality between Chad's process and my own, but I try to, I spend hours on my stuff, or days, and so which has benefits, and because I can make, I think some of the stuff I make is good, but then I can't make a lot of it, and yeah, and I don't know, it's interesting, like just to think about how this how all of that sort of plays into what we're doing. We're also trying to be creative in different ways, and um yeah.
Which gets into Mo's pitch about art.
Yeah.
And I mean, this entire conversation is about wisdom, because we are trying to manage this new environment, which is the LLM conversation. I mean, I deeply appreciate John Vervaeke's caution with respect to LLMs, because I find them disorienting. But we now are living embedded in a machine world, which is so fundamentally disorienting. And it used to be, let's say, maybe you could maintain sobriety by avoiding alcohol. Can you maintain sobriety without avoiding screens? And, again, as I mentioned briefly, the more I read about what's happening in the early childhood development stages, I think we are just fundamentally messing up kids and setting them up for disaster. And part of the difficulty is that schools are rushing headlong into this. Schools.
Well, and not only are they rushing headlong into this, schools, and I think you really have to include daycare. I really do, and I know this makes people very uncomfortable. I get it, I do. But schools and daycare have largely been turned into a permission structure for total work, and so therefore the way I think I was on
back that line for me, that permission structure for total work line.
Sure. I mean, I have friends, and again, I want to be very clear here. I'm not in the business of trashing people and the decisions they have to make as a family. Economic realities are economic realities. I'm sure all of you know that. But, I have friends who've had to return to work after, 2 weeks or 4 weeks, let's say, and a 4-week-old child is not meant to be stuck in a bin. I don't want to be indelicate here, but, they're not meant to be stuck in a bin and not interacting every 20 minutes with mom. And I think I was talking about this a little bit on the stage. We were talking about the child's, the built-in limitations of a child is that they can only see about, however long from here to here is, and in some sense that is sort of the body's built-in mechanism to learn what it needs to learn when it needs to learn it. Love, of course, is the grand scheme of this, but literally the development of the child and their perceptions as they are building out their world, the constraints are real and they're not meant to be jammed. And we are jamming those things in a radical way. I mean, let's be blunt here, guys. This experiment that we're all participating in one way, shape, or form is totally novel. When I was a child, so I was born in 1973, when I was a child, the default mode for middle class folks was mom stayed home for at least until kindergarten. right? Roughly speaking. And, I think it's good if possible that the mom can stay home longer than just kindergarten, but just to put it that way, whereas the next generation, the millennials, they all grew up with mom and dad working basically. And so therefore they were in daycare. Some of them were in daycare by week 3. And I applaud those daycare workers who keep children fed and give them some degree of feedback and love, but it's not the same thing. And we have no idea what the long-term horizon is for what these kids are not learning. And what they're not learning is not 2 + 2 = 4 or algebra or Shakespeare or whatever it is, you technically learn it in school, but all that other stuff, that stuff that gets filtered out as noise. What if the most meaningful things are exactly those things that are conveyed in the noise of a mom and a child at home, at 2:15 in the afternoon on Thursday. And so we have a whole generation of people who did not have that. And again, I know you could say, well, okay, poor people don't have that. And you're right. And you could also say that really, really rich people didn't have that, and you'd be right. But that doesn't take away from what it is I'm trying to say here, right? That we are pretending that the wisdom that we're all talking about can be kind of jammed, jacked, hacked, and kind of through technologies gotten around and over. And I don't think that that's really true or doable ultimately. And so you think of things like ADHD and anxiety and depression, and everybody loves Jonathan Haidt because Jonathan Haidt is sort of telling us what we all kind of know, that the cell phones are tough on the kids, right? But it's a way bigger problem than cell phones. So does that permission structure thing make sense, Grim? So it basically gives people like, okay, well, everybody goes to work after 6 weeks. Okay.
So the normalized destruction of the child.
Absolutely.
And you didn't even get to the fact that after the stage you mentioned, there's like only one parent in a lot of homes.
Right.
So it went downhill from there.
Yeah. So that, so I don't know how I got here. So sorry, but that's on my brain.
Yeah. One thing I've been thinking about just is it kind of connects to Luke's thing about place, because I'll get back to what you're talking about, Cale, but like I was thinking of where do we take a pilgrimage in the United States, and we normally go to, at least when I grew up in Idaho, so we went to the national parks, or we went out into nature. I mean, I got my mountain shirt on, for crying out loud, and even with my boys, like I took them all hiking, and each one of them we climbed a mountain together. And so like part of me doesn't know why I did that. I was just like, this seems like I can do this. and maybe it will be something, because I didn't talk to him while that we're on the way up the mountain. I didn't talk to him and be like, all right, we're climbing a mountain. Just remember, in times in life, things may get hard, but if you keep putting one step in front, like I didn't say any of that to him, but, and maybe I should have, I don't know, who knows? But like so much of, we have such big cities. We have so much culture around us. We have so much stuff that's built in from hundreds of years ago. We have a bunch of stuff built in from tens of years ago, and we're able to like, stare into a screen that was, basically the internet video stuff was invented 15 years ago, and now this can be a reality for us. And to actually go out and just like stare at a leaf or some bugs or something just seems like it's so boring. Like it doesn't offer this, like, it's not exciting. There's, like I can just click through things that are dull or whatever. But as far as like the baby looking at the mother's face, there's a way which when you behold nature, you're beholding something of God, because it's his creation, and we're sort of getting, some people are just divorced from that. I spent the day yesterday with my dad, and we had like a short conversation because he had talked to a guy earlier about just monarch butterflies and their migration, and just, there's all kinds of crazy, wonderful things like that you can kind of learn about in school, and even just when we were talking about, we're sitting in a car in a parking lot. We weren't out there with the monarchs, in whatever, but even like nature documentaries, at least it can get you uh, uh, somewhat there. So, I don't know. Those are some thoughts I have too. It's just like it's almost like there's a human culture problem that's always there, and you have to leave at some point to go out to see the world, and behold it for yourself. Like there's no, and you can be blinded by all that culture stuff, but you have to uh come back at some point. Well, I mean, I guess you don't have to. I guess you can live in the wilderness, but it's not for everyone, I guess.
Right. Right.
Rod wants us to address whether or not we're a cult.
Oh,
What is a cult?
Cult is something that isolates you from everybody else.
Oh.
And so in that vein, I don't think we qualify.
And it depends on which way you're using it. Like all culture comes from cult. I mean, Peugeot said that, so it's true. It's a fact.
Yeah,
Right, but if he's using it in the sort of the popular idiom,
right?
It's fair. It's a fair question, but I mean, I think Grimm is right. Look, if you study cults, you know that they have certain markers against them. Yeah, we're a group of people who share references and those kinds of things. But I think to your point, that's culture, right? Whether or not it's high culture or not is a different question. But a cult, to me, there's always like a weird sex element in which the sexual hierarchy goes up to the top, and so everybody's got to sleep with the cult leader. I'm being serious. I'm being serious.
I can confirm we're not there yet.
Right.
PBK, are you?
I was all good. I was all good. I didn't have to go to confession when I came home, so, but I mean, so maybe the question's sort of more said in jest, than anything, but I don't think it's a cult. I think it's a group.
Isn't that what someone in a cult would say, though?
Yeah. Yeah. Ask my harem. Yeah. So,
All right. Closing thoughts, and then I'm going to drop the link. Mo, or you can popcorn it. You can go in any order you want to.
Somebody else go first.
I'll say this because I'm gonna go. I do think the space is very important. I think that us doing these little events, I mean, this is kind of how you've always said, Paul, you want to run things, is by not telling people what to do and letting them do what they want and seeing what happens. I mean, it's very it's very free and empirical that way. People can do whatever they want, and I think that will be a great thing. I think it's valuable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I don't think it's a cult because people can leave whenever they want. And I think it's been another one of the huge reasons that I do this, and Peugeot said it a few times over the weekend, is that it really is it's filling a gap in my life that doesn't it's itching a scratch. It doesn't get scratched anywhere else. That's another huge factor with it. And like going to Jason's wedding with Jess, and I said, I've just kind of gotten comfortable. I mean, I don't know what it means, but it's kind of like, it's the same thing, not to bring this up with the universalism, where I'm just getting comfortable saying where I really am, where it's like some of my best friends are people that I met online. And that's just the way it is. I know it seems weird, but it really is true. And so it matters. It matters a lot to me. I find it very valuable and I love it. And if you don't, go do something else, I guess.
All right. Thank you, Luke. Who's next?
I guess I'll go. I really love the Midwestary event. I've always loved mountaintop experiences. I I've I kind of valued everything that happened. I'm curious, like, what will be the long-term effects, and I don't even know if you can measure those or sense them or whatever. Like even the effect it had on Rod Dreher and how he spoke about it afterwards is really interesting to me. Like that the conference was actually different than other conferences, and in what way, and like, will that have any sort of, as Chad was talking about being an outreach event or whatever, like, uh, are there people in Rod Dreher's sphere that will be able to find some of this helpful, or um, and then even Peugeot said when he got up to give his talk, he wasn't necessarily like, he was very kind. I always saw people talking with him, and but he even got up and he said, whoever the organizers are really did a good job of making it seem like we're one big happy family. And I assume he meant that. I don't think he's just saying that in front of every conference. Maybe he is, but Peugeot's been kind of like, he's like, I'm not making a community. He's been specifically like, he's like, I'm not trying to do that. I'll point people towards their church or their own communities. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to write and tell stories and do this. But I wonder, part of me would be curious, like, what, I don't know, if any effect it has on what they're doing over there at Symbolic World or any of that.
I'll go. I'm a yahoo from a small town in Oklahoma, and that there's life options through this internet thing that let me be somebody outside of that geography is special enough for me to keep investing in. And I thank everyone who's part of it.
Thanks, Chris.
I'll go. So I really loved it. And I'm deeply thankful for attending and being part of it, and having that little tab on the bottom of my lanyard that called me a presenter, even though I didn't technically present. That's okay. But so for me, it was a unexpected, radical affirmation of so many people I barely know or don't know, like, giving me the gift of affirmation that I don't feel much. And just to feel like, I don't know, I didn't feel any enemy energy in that room, like not even once, which was nice. And so I took it as a kind of, like, people believe in me. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome for me personally. And so I'm going to try to use that as inspiration for me to, I don't know, kind of keep doing the kinds of things that I've only dreamed in my head. And I don't exactly know how to get to the point where I can realize those dreams that I have in my head for me personally, because sometimes it's really hard to believe in yourself. I mean, it's weird. Maybe some generations have a different relationship to that expression, but I've always suffered a little bit in that regard of imposter syndrome and, and all those normal things. But, Rod pulled me aside at the end, just before, he went off to liturgy on Sunday morning, and I went off with Corey to liturgy in the morning. And, he just basically said, you no longer have, you're looking at me and telling me just, eye to eye. It's like, you no longer have the luxury of doubt. And so that was just a tremendous gift. And I think it came from him. He would often just watch me through the screen like everybody else, right? Even when we're talking, because he lives in Hungary or lives in Baton Rouge and I live here. But to him, that gift was facilitated by this gathering in Elmhurst. And I'm just really, really grateful for that. And I want to make good on that overwhelming feeling of belief, period. And it was just really cool to talk with John Vervaeke and to trade notes and to sort of go do this like feedback, this sort of back and forth where I'm like, oh, have you heard this? And he's like, oh, have you heard? And I wanted to say goodbye to him before we left. And I was kind of thinking about it on the stage. And right as we were marching out with when the Saints go marching in, and like he came and found me and gave me a hug and just said he was so glad to meet me. And I was just like, man, like that's like ultimate stuff. I mean, John's a great guy and he's a super smart guy. And to be able to trade notes with him was really special. So that's it.
Amen. It was great. I was there to introduce Cale and John Vervaeke, and they immediately started going on about Melville and Moby Dick and great books, and that was so cool. That was just so cool to see. One of the things I learned early on with the Randos conversations, because of course I start having these pastoral conversations with people, then we start recording them, then we start sharing them, and I was very nervous about that for the reason of Grim Grizz's pitch here. Because what's going to happen when we put these people on a channel? At that point, the channel had, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 subs. What's going to happen? And what happened was people were so encouraging and affirming in the comment section. Elizabeth Oldfield had said at one point, the YouTube comment sections are just a disaster. But when I did that conversation with Paul and I read his comment section, it was a totally different thing. And again, this to me, I can't control that. Yeah, I can every now and then I'll
wrench somebody,
I'll kick out a troll. But for the most part, everyone here wants to be here. And unless they have a sort of a sick game they want to play in the community, when people don't want to be here, they leave. But the people who want to be here, they want something good. And so when they see beauty or goodness or integrity or even they just want to say an encouraging word because they can just smell that someone's struggling, that's a community I want to be a part of, because the world needs more of that. It surely does. And so to whatever degree I can sort of elevate a rando and lift that person up so that other people can celebrate and encourage and strengthen and help. But there's no better thing to do with your place on a hierarchy. So yeah, thanks, Cale. Okay, Mo, you made yourself last.
I didn't mean to go last, but there was something I knew I wanted to share that my mind was going blank. But one aspect that often gets overlooked, and this might sound weird when I first say it, but one of the beautiful aspects of this conference is that CW wasn't there. Jacob wasn't there. Tayo wasn't there. And I was sad about it. Like I missed them. And what that says is that they mean something to me. And the fact that they weren't there, I was missing something real. And so somebody should do a conference real soon so that I can see them in person again.
I don't even know if CW would come to our conference. That little.
If you guys do one in Minneapolis, I chat with CW almost every day. I mean, CW leaving the corner. What does that mean? I remember when he was like, it's like, I'm leaving the corner. I said, oh, well, what does that mean? And then he says, does that mean I can't text you anymore? I said, no, CW, you can text me.
Yeah, I need to send him a text.
But no, you're right.
What
And
membership tier is that CW gets attached to? That's what Alan. That's why you got that private jet.
So no, Mo, you're exactly right, and that's also why, one of the things that we didn't talk about. Why I love it that people start conferences on their own initiative, because what that means is, if Luke does if Luke does a conference, he'll jigger that conference so Peter Rowland can talk. And it doesn't matter if Luke shared how many Peter Rowland videos, and a lot of us watch it and are like, I just don't quite get it. Doesn't matter. When Luke does his conference, Peter Rowland will get stage time, and he will force me to listen to him. He'll probably put me on stage with him and have me do a conversation with him. But if that's the conference that Luke wants to put up, that can happen. And
in the lake in February. That's where you'll have your conversation with Peter Rollins.
Well, everybody will be inside then, so
So, this to me is what this is about, because every conference we do, there'll be some people there and some people not there. And, that's why I love the small conferences, because when I did my retreat at my sister's, the people who showed up, and then one who was totally random that nobody knows about, he's like an installer. He came, and then he came to Midwestuary, and the people of the conference, and the people who were they were like, oh, he's here. And then there are other people that didn't, that will probably not come to a big conference, but with the cameras off, with a group of 12, they will show up. And I want to address, Yon God made a comment about, because Kale was talking about, Young God's like, well, you got to buy a ticket to go here. And hey, fair enough. I get that. But there are a number of scholarship tickets. It's been a value of mine all along the way that, to as much of a degree as possible, let's try to make this thing economically feasible for as many people as we can. And so there were scholarship tickets. I know that if someone really wanted to go and they had contacted one of the conference organizers, we would have been able to find someone to buy a ticket for them. And what I have to say to that is, every Sunday morning again, starting again, and because we took a pause because of all my summer travel, but starting in September again, every Sunday morning here at Living Stones at 9 a.m., there is an Estuary meeting, and there are plenty of open seats. So if you want to come to Sacramento and be in a part of an Estuary group with Celebrity Me, I'll tell you, there's no line at Living Stones. There's plenty of empty seats. That if you want to do it, there's no barrier to entry. There really isn't. And my wife always, one of the interesting things that came out about this conference is that many of us, when, Jeff told the story, many of us, when we begin to tell our wives, I'm going to meet my weird internet friends. Of course, when we meet them in person, the wives are always thinking, are they an axe murderer? Because they just imagine that the axe murderers or the assassins are all out there. But at least to this point, the assassins have all failed. And
may they continue to do so.
May they continue to do so. All right, we've got a ton of people. I want to thank my panel for agreeing to be here. And we got a whole bunch of people. Now, again, unfortunately, I only have limited slots. StreamYard has gotten so freaking expensive. So I will bring in those who have gathered here. And hopefully we'll have enough slots that people can get in. Okay. All right. I'm going to go around. Skank, what say you?
Check. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Awesome. I want to chime in particularly about the bit about pilgrimages in place, and just say, you people that talk on the internet for a living make things so overcomplicated. I will. If you need help, DM me. That's one of the big things that became very clear as the pro-fun, pro-touching grass candidate. That's what I'm here to help bring to this world, is help you guys go outside. See? Not difficult.
and And again, if you want a conference that, I was talking to Skank in the airport. He's the guy I was talking to in the airport. So, if you want to do a conference in Yosemite with 12 people or in a national park, oh, I would so love that. If you're doing it in a city, it's going to be a little disembodied. Get Rafe Kelly on there to do the parkour estuary. Make a conference. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to take on thousands of dollars worth of risk. If Grim Grizz announced a conference in his town, gosh, said there are 12 seats, that sucker would fill up so fast. It would. So, Grit, what are you leaving that grift on the table for, Grizz? I can't believe you haven't done this yet.
Between August and October, I mean, there's a lot of competing events at the moment.
Yeah, and that is coming, which is why small events are good. Maybe an event fills up fast, but maybe you can get to another one. So, absolutely. We want to have enough estuaries around so that people can come. And again, the argument about a cult, when you go to it, you all have seen the Estuary Protocol. It is about as open as we can possibly make it. What you want to talk about, if you can convince the other 6 or 8 people in the group to talk about that, you get to.
I don't know.
Them.
I heard "convince" was a dirty word in Estuary last weekend. Somebody got shut down for using it.
All right. So convince is a dirty word. All right, Neil. What
You're not
say
supposed
you?
to believe things in it.
I've got 2 things. One is that I want to thank the Chicago Midwestuary team. So Chad pulled me in to help me with this. All the Chicago folks knew basically nothing about me. They didn't know me, and they trusted me, and they allowed me to help. And all the meaning in my life now comes from responsibility. All of it. I find difficulty finding anything meaningful in my life that's not directly tied to responsibility. And so I want to say something to everybody out there that's like struggling with the meaning crisis. Volunteer for a random event that's coming up, even if you know nobody, and just listen and help where you can help. Even if you don't think you can help, there will be opportunities, and you will have a more meaningful life as a result of doing that. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I heard nothing during the conference. This is negative Neely here. I heard nothing during the conference whatsoever about discerning the spirits, about discernment. Not directly. There were some things indirectly. But this idea that the LLM spirit is all bad, or this is all good, or we don't have agency or a part to play in discerning our individual paths. I think what life is about discernment. And the thing that I was able to discern this past weekend, that I think is a huge blind spot to all of the TLC, but not only all of the TLC, but I will call it mainstream America, the West, intelligentsia, pick your adjective. Gen Z is radically different than all of the people on this screen. Oh, some of them might be Gen Z. Yeah. Matt's actually older than I thought he was, Matt over there.
Joshua was pretty young.
Yeah.
I'm very immature for my age. Don't worry.
And the generational differences between like me and Kale's generation, it pales in comparison to the millennials versus Gen Z. And y'all better get up to snuff fast. I'm telling you, because the world we're entering into is radically different than the world we're leaving. And that was humbling and eye-opening. And I understand things that I didn't understand before. And I don't know how much of the panelists that were up on stage really understand. The question I wanted to ask them was, as a result of becoming famous, what have you lost? And get their self-perception of that. And I think, Kale, you and PVK, you guys are micro-famous, but I think you have a better sense of the meaning of that, the weight of that question and what can be lost. And anyway, so I wanted to leave you all with that I'm really thinking about the changing spirits that are coming.
Just real quick to jump on that, Neil. Great points both. Truly, I don't know if you caught it, but I kept trying. I mean, I felt I kept saying the same thing. Well, I teach high school students. And part of that was, and I meant it when I said I'm not worried about Jonathan or John, looking up stuff on chat like that, like whatever. But the real difference between the loneliness and the friendlessness and the isolation of Gen Z is something that I agree. I don't think that they are fully indexing. So.
Did you just say Gen Z?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Hot.
Oh, Kale, no.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I did. I'm
Thank
not
you.
sorry.
Thank you, Neil. Jeremy, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Kale said Z because he maybe recognized I was from Europe, so he wanted to not do a Z but a Z. Right? So
I'm helping out, Jerry.
It was quite introductive and kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to actually, in a way, build on what Neil had just said. So, like Paul, if you recall, like when I met you, right, that was the first time I'd seen you in Meet Space, right? And I had come up and I was thinking, it's like, will I go? Will I have time to go? And I went up in the car and I was like thinking, what will happen? What will I do? What am I going to leverage off meeting this? Am I going to build it out? Am I willing to take a more active role? Would I set up my own estuary? Would I participate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So I had all of these things that were downstream from participating in your channel and listening to you and building off what you were saying, right? And how this manifested in Meet Space was me saying to you, I wasn't there to meet you. I was there to do the estuary, right? Which let me assure you was not the message I wanted to give you, right? But that was tremendously awkward, and yet I still did it, right? Why? Because in a way I was used to interacting with you in a 2D situation where I was thinking in my own mind. And even though you were 3D, I was still interacting with you in a 2D way. I was still thinking and talking as if I were driving in the car, except instead of thinking and talking to myself, I was talking literally to you, right? And I think that kind of builds on what celebrity, this notion of micro celebrity, and it's not so much maybe what the better known people have lost, but it's what we cannot grasp who are not yet better known, right? Because there was an invitation there to me to be able to manage that in a way that was better, to be able to move from 2D to 3D, and to be able to gather and pull my thoughts out and to be able to interact with reality in a way that was much faster. So listening to the points about, micro celebrity and how to balance with that really kind of jumped back to my mind.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Any responses? Because boy, I mean, what Neil just said about Gen Z is so true. So I have two kids who are Gen Z, and 2.5, because one's sort of on the border. But I can see the difference between my oldest children and my youngest children, and we homeschooled them. They're got the same biological parents. They're raised in the same home. I was talking to Skank. Skank's part of a big family. And so he's got an even bigger, longer range of siblings. And what you said, Jeremy, in terms of the Gen Z are natives to this world that I, as, just at the edge of the boomers, I look at it and it's like, holy cow, what is this doing? And there are times, and I remember older generations that looked at the world of set in just horror at, people are bringing televisions into their homes and they're spending how much of their time watching that, and how much of their information are they getting through that? And so this, trying to figure out how, and so here I am in the Netherlands, and we're in the Van Os compound, and which is just if you haven't really gotten to know the Van Osses, you really have to. They are special tribe. But no, very, very true, Jeremy. Very true. All right, Mark D. Parker.
Sorry I missed it. Feeling the FOMO,
I thought of you quite a bit. You would have loved it.
Yeah, I would have. Love to talk about something about what you've talked about, but something has really been lacking this whole stream, and that is any attention paid to Living Stones. Go to livingstonecrc.com/give to make your donation today to lengthen that runway. Give them time to figure out the future. Keep Paul going at his base of operations so he doesn't have to be operating out of his bunker, and make it happen. Give a little, give a lot, give whatever you got. You can even send in Benjamins and Lincolns and Washingtons in an envelope. They even got a what did somebody say? Meat space address. You've got a real snail mail address, so you can even snail mail a check or cash. I'm sure it will all be fine if you wrap it in paper. Nobody will steal it. It'll be fine. But give like your life depends on it. Okay, that's my pitch. Living Stones, crc.com.
/give.
Is it backslash or forward slash?
I don't know. One of the slashes.
What a slash, yeah. Or just go there and there's a give button all the way over to the far right, at least on my page.
Thank you, Mark. We are meeting with the church visitors tonight. Myself and the council. Church visitors are just people from other neighboring congregations, and we were due for a church. Oh, look at the dog! Look at the dog! We were meeting with the church visitors anyway, and so now we'll have something to talk about. And I think Classis is going to probably provide us with a counselor, which I think will be really nice for the council, because of something like this, it's hard for me to. I mean, the church has its own decision to make apart from me, and what we talked about today, impacts that, because I think about if as the number of estuary events continues, it's like, well, how many of these estuary events can I go to? How much of my time should I be spending traveling around the world going to estuary events? Now, obviously, if I didn't have Living Stones, I'd have way more time to do that. But how much should I do it? And so these issues are very, very much on my mind. But thank you, Mark, for speaking up for the church and for presenting the church. And it's difficult because a lot of people on TV, if they hear a pastor asking for money for a ministry, there's this guy just arrested by the FBI for. I mean, it was all over my feed this morning. It's like,
well, the thing is I don't think people understand how much Living Stones has given the corner just by giving you your day job and an office from which to work, and that stability of setting where you could kind of create a home studio or office studio, and it's a huge contribution that just has gone unacknowledged largely. And I think it's time to pay a little attention to it and pay back a little bit, because there's a lot of us here that can pay back a little at least. And so that's my feeling about it. And I'm not Reformed, by the way. I had to make the conscious decision not to become Reformed after I left my church. I entertained the possibility quite seriously, but that doesn't mean I do not love you and will not support you. So absolutely.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Right. Joshua, what's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So talking about like, when am I my true self? That I had two competing ideas going throughout the entire conversation. And, we have this hierarchy of experience. So you could say like us at church, us at the grocery store, us on the toilet. And at first I was like, well, all of it is our true self. Like, that's the entire reason Christ went down to Hades. It's because he is both above the hierarchy and also below it. Like, is Christ less in the mundane than he is in the euphoric? Like, I would think not. But on the other hand, the thought is in the eschaton, in the fullness of everything, Christ is the king. Like, he's the ruler that all the other kings lend themselves to. So I was bouncing in between those, and then the conclusion that I came to is it's a boring conclusion, and we all know what it is. It's just whenever we are most like Christ is whenever we are most like ourselves. So I could be at church, which you would think is the highest, but if I'm judging, if I'm, oh, this person is wearing that, or this woman has all this jewelry, how obnoxious. I am actually less myself, I'm lower. But if I'm on the toilet and I'm fervently praying, like I am more myself in that moment, like I am higher. So my final thought is I am most myself whenever it is not I who am buying groceries, but Christ buying groceries through me.
All right. Thank you, Joshua. Any idea, any response to Joshua?
Good call.
I'll throw it a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. Good call. I like the approach.
I just was yammering in the comments like usual, but like I guess a distinction between my true self and my authentic self, and initially did a strong like no that like I am most myself when I'm most like Christ, or I'm most like Christ when I'm most like myself. And I think the distinction between true and authentic is really, really important. So I think right now, today, my most authentic self is probably much closer to what Paul calls the flesh in Romans, in Galatians. Part of my job is to suppress some of that and let it be sloughed off so that the true can emerge from the authentic. Anyway.
Yeah, the incarnation, the audacity of at least Trinitarian Christians' belief in the incarnation, that Christ was born, and almost when we say Christ was born of a virgin, we certainly elevate it, and I'm not denying that, but the fact, if you've ever been in the labor room, and I've been in 5 times for 5 children, being born is a very real thing. There's blood, there's urine, there's feces often, there's, it's life-threatening. That's one thing that mothers have a leg up on almost anyone else on the planet, especially if they've been through, let's say, natural childbirth, where they weren't just, sedated or, but they have done that work. And to say that, God became flesh, and, the Orthodox thing, God became flesh, we could become like him. It's insane. And you're right. And I was, I'm working on my sermon in Revelation, and I'm at the end of the book of Revelation, and it was so good working on that this time, because of course I've got now years of talking to Orthodox and talking to Catholics, and this cube, where this cube comes down to earth, and that cube is the Holy of Holies, where it's even so mysterious in the book of Revelation, because just like the same questions in Genesis, like who are the others beyond the family of Adam? Who did Cain and Abel marry? If Abel married, we don't know about his wife, but it's the same sort of mysterious edges in the vision in the book of Revelation too, and which just accentuates the fact that Jesus fills up the stack. So great point. Thank you, Joshua. Kenan or Keenan, how do you say your first name?
It's Kenan. That's Kenan.
Kenan Ballou.
Yeah, that's me. I think so I have 3 kids, and I'm convinced that mothers have some sort of amnesia, because the first birth was pretty traumatic. And when she started wanting a second one, I was like, do you remember what you went through? And so it's a blessing and a mercy that women forget, because otherwise we die out in how many years that is. Yeah, so I just want to thanks for the conference. I love the Midwestary. I really had no idea about you guys. I came for the speakers, and I stayed for the TLC, I guess. one thing I want to bring up is something a couple of people I connected with, we've been emailing back and forth, and we've noticed like pre-Midwestary, we spent a lot more time like here. And like this week, I've been way more involved in Discord and like watching videos. And I feel almost like the reverse of what was supposed to happen. Because I grew up digital native and I've tried to wean myself over that past few years. And thanks a lot. You're pulling me right back in. But yeah, don't really have any big point other than thanks a lot. And it was a life-changing experience. Just the connections, just instant connection. I think everyone's been talking about that, but it was great. Good job.
Thank you, Kenan. Thank you. Nate.
Hey. So I hopped on in the first place because there was a whole bunch of people that I would like to have seen more of at the conference that were on screen when you started. And unfortunately, they're all gone because Grandma and I got to see a lot of each other because we shared a Verbo. And I see Matt all the time because he's in my Estuary and Olympia. Skank is local for me. And Matt C, I didn't get to see as much of as I would have liked to. I didn't get to meet. Is it Cannon or what was his name again? Cannon. It was just
Kenan. Yeah.
I just remember the last name Baloo because I'm guessing he's got Cajun ancestry there or something. That sounds like a very Cajun name to me. Anyway, so that's why I got on. But a couple things that have kind of come up over the course of the conversation. First of all, that Graham here has I caught his video that he recorded when he got back from the conference. I think Grim has a lot of really excellent ideas about different styles of conferences for the future. As conference liaison, I'm certainly willing to listen to him and suggest those ideas to others. So, Graham, if you want to like meet and talk and go over some of your ideas in more detail and flesh them out, happy to do that. Looking forward to seeing the Minneapolis guys finally get out their ass and do something. It's long past due. They should have done something a long time ago. There's a lot of them, and they have a lot of great energy. And I'm sure whatever they do, it's going to be interesting and cool. And it won't be like anything that anybody else has done either. And that's pretty much it. Oh, if you're ever at a conference in the future and you hear that you hear a rumor that Nate has something going on at wherever it is that Nate is staying, and you haven't been invited, just show up. I will feed you. I will hang out with you. You are welcome. So.
All right. Yesterday I was on a Zoom call with a pastor in Vancouver who is getting serious about, he was actually a super early rando on my channel. And they already have a coffee shop that works out of their church. And that's
interesting because I was just dropping in the comments, like, I'm starting to think about Northwestuary 2.0, and one of the places I'm thinking about having it is on Orcas Island. There is a state park retreat center on Orcas Island, which is fairly near the Canadian border, right? So really easy for the Vancouver folks too. The downside is you have to fly into Seattle and then take a ferry.
Yeah.
So,
but Orcas Island is worth the trip.
It's worth the trip though, because it's a really, really beautiful place.
Yeah.
And it would also be all inclusive because we would be able to offer lodging on site too, and it can accommodate up to 148 guests. So I think and because it's a state park retreat center, it's not that expensive, and we could easily manage it. The only catch is that you have to reserve it a year in advance. So whenever I decide, okay, this is the thing that we're going to do, I've got to make that reservation a year in advance. So,
But you might even get my wife to one on Orcas Island, because we went to we vacationed on Orcas Island a couple years ago, and it was wonderful.
It is one of the lovelier places on earth. Yeah, it really is. That would be the allure. Yeah.
Awesome. So if you have questions about how to do a conference and you want someone who's helped and done his own conference and come alongside, Nate is the guy to reach out to, and he will give you ideas. But you don't even have to wait for Nate. I mean, just organize something small. And I swear I'm really surprised Grizz hasn't done anything, because boy, Grizz, that would be your conference would fill up like that.
I'm looking for an excuse to go to Oklahoma too, because I have family. there. So, you know.
Who would I even have speak though?
Chris
That's
Green?
up to you.
Chris Green moved back to
That-
Oklahoma. He's in Oklahoma City.
That's
There you
what
go,
we're
right
dying
there.
to figure out, who you would stock your speakers
That's
list
exactly.
with,
Everyone
man.
wants to go to the conference just because what's he gonna do? I mean, so anyway, thank you, Nate.
Yep.
All right, Matt, you are the last one. I'm gonna pull back the link so that I can do a little other things. Matt, you get the last word, or
Thanks.
the last question, or the last.
There's not enough woo in this conversation, so I'm gonna land the plane with some woo.
Okay.
I had a dream last night. I had a dream that Midwestary was still going on, and there was a party going on by the lake, and I was missing out on it. I'm serious. This is actually a dream I had, and I was trying to find Nate Heil, who has just conveniently dropped off. And for a moment, I was sad because I was realizing I was going to miss the party and I was missing Nate. And then I thought about what Nate has taught me about the spirit of abundance versus the spirit of scarcity. And if there are parties going on, if there is soil that's being tilled and seed growing into plants that you don't get to enjoy the fruit of, a spirit of abundance is excited and thrilled, and there's just joy in knowing that soil is producing fruit. The spirit of scarcity would be sad by that and saying, I got to eat every piece of fruit or the fruit is wasted, right? And it's moments like Midwestuary that I think I'm sure with how many hundreds of people were there, and all the different people that we wanted to talk to, and all the parties and all the other things going on. Like, that was a great moment to realize, to manifest that spirit of abundance, that we could just be happy. We don't even know who these people are. We're just happy that they're growing and being well tended to, and in richer soil than in previous years, and being pruned and grown up and into being the sort of beautiful people that they are. How's that, Paul?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I really like that. And Nate is, Nate is very much that way, emphasizing the spirit of abundance. And no, that's right. Oh, look at you, cured Phlebus's FOMO.
Was that so
you.
cringe? He's now glad he didn't attend.
Well, I'm looking forward to a conference. There were besides myself and Mo, there were 3 other CRC pastors at this conference. And of course, you can't spot them because they dress like everyone else. We sort of slip under the radar. But I am, I'm really hoping that one of the things that I've going to continue to make an appeal for is that if Christian Reformed churches want to get in on this, they can host a conference, make their facility available. Might not have a facility like Elmhurst, which is just this tremendous facility, but you might have a small facility, and you can host a conference for, just take the number of breakout spaces for estuaries, multiply that by 10, and there's your conference limit for your facility, and host that facility. And so I'm really hoping that more and more CRC churches do this. And I know, because there's a church in Fresno that's not a CRC, and they're getting really serious about estuary, and they're going to send a group up to me, and they're a large church, and I think they really want to lean into this thing. And yeah. Oh, I do have to, and Rod noticed this too. Grizz used to have you could only catch him for like 5-10 minutes. His live streams were only 15 or 20 minutes, and he's got endurance now. Grizz has developed stamina. So
no, I'm just still full of the imbuing I received in Midwestuary. Things will return, I assure you. In the meanwhile, may God bless us, everyone.
All right. What's the name of the cat?
That's Kikitron.
Kikitron. All right. Any other closing words?
Don't leave yet, Grim. I have something sappy to say to you.
Oh.
I'm sure he'll hear it anyway. All right, well, let me ask permission first. May I grift for 1 minute?
Absolutely.
Okay. I appear to have memed myself into becoming a zine editor and journalist. And I think as of right now, I have plenty of juice for at least 2 more issues. So this is just an open call right now, especially for I would love written reactions to your experience at Midwestuary, especially apparently dreams, because this is not first potent dream I've heard about from Midwestuary. So please, if you're comfortable sharing those, I would love to hear those. Yeah, find me on Twitter.
All right.
Clever Goal is I think the name. And then on a sappy ooey gooey kumbaya moment. Watching Grimm's vid yesterday, he's got the very grim thing of choose how you're going to resist the mind control. And he's got like 4 different options. And before Chicago, the thought that my social circle would be any help at all in resisting mind control was just not even a thought in my mind. And that's no longer true. I was kind of blown away, but like, oh. Okay. That's all I got.
All right. Where exactly are you right now, Skank?
I am outside the library of a local university.
Okay. I saw that. I saw that sky bridge, and I thought, well, that's an interesting sky bridge.
In the greater Pacific Northwest area.
Okay. All right.
Opposite.
All right.
Skank was built to protect my day job from you hosers.
Yeah. Any final words, Joshua?
Nope. I just wish I could have made it to the Estuary conference.
Yeah.
Maybe South Estuary.
All right. Maybe. All right. Thank you all for participating. I'm gonna play some. Well, Clara's here, so we should definitely play this.
Also in today's community report, Clara, our resident sociologist, had some relevant things to say to the world.
So this is my kitchen. You can even see that there is a fly trap behind me. That's something I would have removed if I had really thought about this, because that is disgusting. Right now I am roasting chicken to eat later today. And I feel like I need to justify that to myself and to the world, like literally to the world, because I'm live streaming.
So I did get to meet Claire in the flesh, and that was so much fun. But also I got to meet this guy.
In other news, Ron Copperman was arrested last night after attempting to reveal secret sacred truths of the TLC to an unknown sociologist.
Hold on a second. It's the cops.
Oh no.
Ron Copperman, minister. I set the alarm off. Oh my God, dude.
What's your name, sir?
Ron Copperman. Yeah.
18A.
TLC authorities have indicated that the Copper Man is being held at an undisclosed facility until he repents of his false prophecy. Back to you, Tim.
So, and I also got to meet Mark S., and that was a real, because he doesn't show his face on the screen, but he came up and I got to take a selfie with him. I asked for a selfie with Mark S. So I'm going to play his hymn and a few other fun songs, and that'll be it. So thanks for joining.
You've heard your neighbor go on about Jesus. They claim their life is renewed. You're happy for them and wonder about it, but surely that isn't for you. Well, what does it mean, and where does life lead, and what they say, could it be true? Well, open your mind, my friend, you may find that Jesus is calling you to. We hear explanations, we try to be patient, opinions the world doesn't lack. They say he's the way, have faith and be saved. It's almost as simple as that. You look for a sign, well, this is the time. The answers have come into view. Here, wipe all your tears and cancel your fears. Well, Jesus is calling you to a strong hesitation for great invitation, a feeling we've all felt ourselves. And now we are gathered at life-giving water. It overflows out of the well. Well, he is the man and he has a plan. You're wondering what you should do. I tell you, arise, repent, be baptized, for Jesus is calling you to. Though life won't be perfect, few things will be certain. We follow with all of our hearts. We walk in the light, we can see with our eyes. We understand only in part. We pick up our cross, we don't count our loss. What else is there left to do? The way it is right, his burden is light. Yes, Jesus is calling you to. We all know there's something that's wrong with existence. The nations are warring with blame. But what if I told you a good guy, he loves you, but sin, it has kept us away. There's got to be more, and you can be sure eternity time flies into. But as your days in, you'll still have a friend when Jesus is calling you to. And when your days in, you'll still have a friend when Jesus is calling you to.
I'm gonna tell you a little story about me and my friends, about something we did way back when. I was eating spaghetti and getting kind of sweaty when all of a sudden in walked Betty. Betty was my girl in these old days, and she had a lot of friends that were walking my way. Said first there was Helen, then there was Ellen, but the best of them all, she had the name of Llewellyn. She had the gleamiest eyes and the prettiest pose. But get this, Paul, she had some pony elbows. But back to the point. The point was this. Betty was jealous of my friend Sis. Sis at 7, Liz at 8. I thought that kind of worked, but it didn't work great. But take Fred's advice and never try that. It probably won't work and you might get slapped.
Slapped.
Yep.
That's my favorite of your raps, Fred.
Here it is. Soda. Gotta have it. One love, baby.
Freddie's drug. All right, here we go.
Ready.
All right.
One
love.
52.
All right. 52 in the can.
Ducks eat bread.
They do. They like it.
Where are you here?
Oh, there I am. Hey.
Where are you? Where?
Got me?
Oh boy. Yeah. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me.
Come on, man.
Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. All along this Jesus journey. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Yeah.
Walk with my mama.
You walk with my mama.
Walk with me.
Walk with me too.
You walk with my mama.
Yeah.
Walk with me.
And walk with me too.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus journey.
Walk Jesus. Walk with me.
Walk with me. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. All along this Jesus journey. Hold my hand, Lord, and hold my hand.
Walk with Moses.
You walk with Moses.
Walk
walk with me.
Say, walk with me, love. How y'all doing? Walk with me. Walk with me, love. Walk with me. Walk with me. Come on, now, I want Jesus. I want Jesus to walk with me. To walk with me. Walk with David, a little shepherd boy. Yeah, you made him a great king. I know David shouted for joy. He walked with David, and he's a little shepherd boy. You made him a great king. And David shouted for joy. That's right. Oh, yeah. So walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. All along this Jesus journey. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. You gotta walk with me, Lord.
Yeah! That was rocking great, brother.
Oh, yeah.